So for today's holiday experience, my mother, she basically holds on to everything. She has like 3 different bookshelves of childhood books. So I found the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer that my mom would read to me. And there was 3 different versions of it. And it's literally, seriously, the copy from when I was a little kid. Like, it is old school. I'm going to read Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And then I'm going to periodically just give my 2 cents. And I want to be very clear, I have not read this probably since I was a kid, so I'm doing this like on the fly. I haven't rehearsed it or practiced. I'm just going to read like I would if I was going to read to a bunch of kids. Once there was a reindeer named Rudolph who lived in the North Pole in Toyland. Rudolph was younger and smaller than the other reindeer there. They all had proud, tall antlers. Rudolph's antlers were only tiny stubs. Worst of all, Rudolph had a nose that was big and bright red. It was so red, it glowed in the dark. Poor Rudolph. He wanted to be like the other reindeer in Toyland. Oh, to have a small brown nose instead of a big bright red one. The other reindeer made fun of Rudolph and called him names. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they teased over and over again until tears glistened on Rudolph's large red nose. They kicked up snowballs with their tiny hoofs and covered Rudolph with a blanket of white, fluffy snow. Sometimes the other reindeer made a circle around Rudolph and sang, red nose, a funny sight, big as an apple and twice as bright. All the reindeer loved to play games. They played tree tag and snow slide and tumble bones, but Rudolph was never asked to play. He stood behind a pine tree and watched. He was very lonely. Rudolph couldn't even play hide and seek with the rabbits. His glowing red nose gave him away every time. They're 3 pages in, and what? These reindeer are like mean. Like, this is like out of you don't even need to do this. Like, you don't need to do all this stuff. Like, this is wild. He sang a song and encircled him and like just didn't let him play games. Okay, let's go on. Before Christmas Eve, Santa's elves posted a sign on the gate to Toyland. Santa's team choosing time, the sign said. All the reindeer were asked to line up at 8 o'clock in the meadow. Santa Claus was coming to choose the team that would deliver presents to every good little boy and girl in the world. The reindeer fairly danced with excitement when they heard the news. They pranced and tossed their antlers and pawed the snowy ground with their hoofs. Each reindeer hoped he would be chosen to guide Santa's sleigh. It was the greatest honor a reindeer could ever have. Rudolph sighed. He was ashamed to have Santa see his bright red nose, so he decided to hide. Okay, first of all, why are all the reindeer males? Why were they all males? I don't get that. And like, even the elves are all males. Oh, 1977. Why can't there be female reindeer? Okay, let's find out what happens. In the meadow, all the reindeer in Toyland, except Rudolph, stood in a line while Santa inspected them. Santa chose carefully. Only the fastest, the strongest, and the best reindeer would do. I think Dasher will be fine. He's the biggest reindeer, said Santa. Dasher, wrote his elf assistant in a big book. And Dancer is the strongest. Yes, Dancer is the strongest, said Santa, pulling his beard. Dancer, wrote the elf. Ho ho, let's see, continued Santa. Here's Prancer and here's Vixen. They make the smoothest landings on rooftops. Comet is the fastest and Cupid is the most sure-footed, said Santa. I pick them. And last, said Santa, I choose Donder and Blitzen. They're the best at twisting over treetops and skimming over telephone poles. Everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a job, which in a team, everyone should have a purpose and a job. And you're right, he needs these kinds of reindeer for what he's about to do. The reindeer in Santa's team were very happy. They rubbed noses, they danced and clinked their antlers together. Even the reindeer who weren't chosen were given jobs. Good job, Santa. Don't leave people out. One was to try out electric trains. Another was to cuddle Christmas kittens. What? Can I have that job? His job is just to cuddle the Christmas kittens. Or she or he or they, whatever. I want that job. The only reindeer without a job was Rudolph. He wanted to help, but he knew he would be laughed at. At last, it was Christmas Eve. Santa and his elves were busy packing the sleigh. I don't care if they do make fun of me, said Rudolph suddenly. I want to help too. I'll bring Santa's team a pail of nice, cool water, he decided. They'll get thirsty on their long journey. The night was bitter cold, and a terrible fog covered all the earth. Santa's elves kept bumping into each other as they hitched up the team. They could hardly see as they put on each bright red harness and tied each jingle bell. To make matters worse, Dasher and Dancer were fighting over who was to lead Reindeer. Like, get it together. Get it together, boys. Get it together, Reindeer. I was chosen first, said Dasher, stamping angrily. But you always trip over the moon, said Dancer, kicking a fallen star. Even Santa was cross. We'll never get there if you two don't stop quarreling, he said. And where is my Christmas list? Dash it all. I can't see a thing in this fog. Just then, a soft red glow lit up the snow. Thank goodness, said Santa, suddenly jolly again. I found my list. Ho, ho. I must have tucked it in my belt. Who brought this fine lantern? Asked Santa. I must take it with me. Why, I can see perfectly now. It's not a lantern, said Rudolph, trembling. The light comes from my nose. Okay, so I have some thoughts about all of this. Does Santa not know all of his reindeer? Does he not know that there's a reindeer with a red nose? Like, who is taking care of these reindeers? Like, how does he not know about the red-nosed reindeer already? Like, I feel like that would be like up for discussion. So Santa's not keeping tabs of everything that's happening around in his whole ranch, North Pole area, in this story. So, hope he does better in real life than he does in this story. Let's find out what happens. Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, said Santa. How does he know his name? What? Okay. I'm certainly glad to see you. Your light will guide my sleigh tonight. I appoint you head of my team and #1 reindeer in all the world. Rudolph held his head high. Proudly he pranced to the front of the team. All the other reindeer bowed. Donder and Dancer helped Rudolph put on his harness, and Cupid gave him a beautiful sprig of holly berries. Then down through the clouds and over the sleeping houses, Santa and his team flew on that foggy Christmas Eve, and leading the whole procession was Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. So, if you see a soft glow in the sky on Christmas Eve, you can be sure that Rudolph, the most famous reindeer of all, is very near. So what I'm gonna get from this story is, first of all, don't bully people, don't make fun of people, don't make fun of someone for what they're different for. Don't make them feel left out because of that, obviously. But also, kind of embrace what makes you different. That's what I got out of the story right now. Something that makes you different can make you strong, can, make you the most famous reindeer of all. Rudolph didn't even try, and I get it because people were making fun of him and he felt really bad about his nose. But really, when it came down to it, he should have put himself out there, because even without the fog, maybe the light is brilliant. That's what we needed. Honor and love what you've got. I still want to be the reindeer that gets to cuddle the Christmas kittens, though.